All right, well, welcome everyone. Thank you for tuning in tonight to the Office of Admissions webinar Wednesday. I'm your host, Caitlin Ryman, for the evening, and we have a stellar panelist of presenters for you tonight. So you're going to hear a lot about financing your education, scholarships, and so much more. Just as we go throughout the evening, you will notice that you cannot turn on your microphone or your video, so please utilize the chat feature in WebEx. You're able to type in questions, and we have our admissions staff on the other side who will be answering those questions throughout the evening. There will also be time for live Q&A at the end of the session, so be on the lookout for that at the very end. Now, as we get going today, like I said, we're going to be covering a lot of different things, starting with scholarships. Then we're going to jump into financial aid, managing your financial future, and finally talk more about the different support and resources here at Montana State University. If you are having any technical troubles this evening, feel free to call in. And if for some reason that's not working, we will also be posting a recording of this webinar tomorrow morning. So be on the lookout for that and know that this will be available for you afterwards. Now, like I said, we do have a fantastic panel of speakers, including James Brochett from the Office of Financial Aid, and then we're going to hear from Keith Hamburg from Office of Financial Education. To start us off, though, my name is Caitlin Ryman. I'm an admissions counselor here at Montana State University, so it's my job to meet with prospective students and families, as well as do high school visits and college visits, and a lot of virtual things this fall. To get us started, we're going to start with scholarships. Now, I do want to preface this by saying there have been some updates for fall 2021, where we have gone test optional, which means if you have taken your ACT or SAT test, you can send us those scores, but they will not be taken into consideration when it comes to scholarship opportunities. So we're going to talk about a few different scholarships, including in-state only, out-of-state only, and then we're going to talk about scholarship opportunities available for everyone. Starting with our in-state scholarships, we have the Montana Premier Scholarship, and this offers anywhere from a one-time award of $1,000 up to $3,000 per year renewable. This does require a separate application, and again, test scores are not required. This application is going to ask you more about your leadership, what you've done throughout high school, and look deeper into your academics. There is a priority deadline of February 1st, so that is a date to take note of. And the application for the Montana Premier Scholarship will be out no later than November 16th. Some other opportunities for our in-state students is the Hilliman Scholarship. And this, again, is a separate application. In order to apply for this program, you do also need to fill out FAFSA and be Pell Grant eligible. If you do qualify that way, you can apply for the Hilliman Scholar Program, and this offers up to $4,000 per year renewable. You're also placed in a cohort of other Hilliman Scholars, so you have this really cool place here on campus with other students who also received that award. And then lastly, we have the MUS Honors Scholarship. Now, this is not through Montana State University, rather it's through the State of Montana Board of Regents. Now, this scholarship offers free tuition to students at any institution in the state of Montana. But if you decide to come and be a Bobcat, we will give you an extra $1,000 your freshman year, just as a little incentive to come and join us here in Bozeman. So that kind of concludes our in-state scholarships. Now we're going to talk about our out-of-state scholarship opportunities. And the first is our Achievement Award. The Achievement Award ranges in value up to $10,000, and you're automatically considered for this award when you apply to Montana State University based on your GPA, weighted or unweighted. And new this year is the MSU Blue and Gold Supplemental Scholarship application. Students can choose to apply through this application for an extra $1,000 to $3,000 that can be added on top of what you may have already received from initial Achievement Award consideration. Right now, the criteria is still under evaluation, so that'll be out very soon. And there is no deadline as of now. The one thing to note is that application will also be out no later than November 16th. Next, we have the Western Undergraduate Exchange, or the WUI Scholarship. Students who live in a WUI state, you can kind of see the map there in the top right hand of the screen. It's essentially the Dakotas West, are eligible for this award. This will require an application this year, and it's one of our highest valued non-resident scholarships. We will have a priority deadline of January 15th, 2021. So that's another date you want to make note of. And roughly 4,000 out-of-state students will receive the WUI scholarship for the fall 2021 school year. Now, to make this as simple as we possibly can for students, you only have to apply for the MSU Blue and Gold Scholarship to be eligible for both the WUI and the supplemental $1,000 to $3,000 award on top of the achievement. So one application for two different opportunities there. The last thing to note when it comes to these out-of-state opportunities is you cannot stack them. So we will always give you the award of highest value. That means if you do qualify for the Achievement Award and WUI, you would get WUI over that. So now kind of transitioning into scholarship opportunities for everyone. The first is the Presidential Scholarship. This is the most prestigious scholarship that we have here on campus and is basically the closest you can get to a full ride. It offers a full tuition waiver and a very generous housing stipend. It is very competitive and requires multiple letters of recommendations and essays to apply. It does have a hard deadline of December 4th. Of 2020. So that's coming up here in just a couple months. And it's not one that you want to start the week before. That application is open now, and tests are also optional for the Presidential Scholarship. Students who do receive the Presidential Scholarship do need to be a part of the Honors College while they are here at MSU. But if you don't receive the scholarship, it does double as an application to the Honors College. So kind of two things done at one time with just one application. Moving forward, we have our departmental scholarships. Combined, our colleges give out millions of dollars to students every single year. These are one-off scholarships, which means if you don't get it one year, that's okay. You can just apply the next. And incoming students are eligible to apply for these. They typically open up around November 1st and close around February 1st. So be aware of that date and those deadlines. You can find all of this information at our CATS scholarships site, and you will apply through that same form. Then we have our outside scholarships. These are scholarships that you're bringing in, whether it's a local or national award. We're able to take all of these scholarships and add them to whatever else you may have received from Montana State University. Just a few years ago, we had a student who came in with the Tall Gentlemen's Club Scholarship, where he had sent in a physical saying he was over 6 feet, wrote a few paragraphs, and the Tall Gentlemen's Club gave him like $250. And that is just an example of one of the many opportunities that are available for students nationwide. Then we have financial aid. This did open up on October 1st. We have the experts here with us today, so I'm not going to go very deeply into that, but we'll definitely go more in depth with our presenters here in just a few minutes. And in order to view your scholarship offer, once those do begin to come out, the Achievement Award here within the next few weeks, WUI further on, you can go into your MyInfo student portal. You can find this online by just going to montana.edu/myinfo, and you go to your admissions checklist. That's also where you're able to accept your scholarship offers. So this is a great slide to take a picture of if you have your phone out. And there's also resources online at montana.edu/scholarships that will be able to explain this even further if you have questions later on. And that is all I have for you guys today when it comes to scholarships. Like I said, continue asking questions in the chat. We'll have that live Q&A at the end, but I'm going to pass it on to James Broscheit from the Office of Financial Aid to continue the presentation.
Thank you, Caitlin. Appreciate that. Wanted to welcome everybody. Good evening. Thank you for your interest in Montana State University. We look forward to providing you some information here. Next slide, if you would, Caitlin. Thank you. So higher education is really a time to consider an investment. Certainly there are dollars associated with this investment, but this investment is personal. This investment is something that yields really a lifetime of value in terms of what that looks like. So it's really that important time in life to really start taking advantage of looking at this in terms of that long-term growth, in terms of what this brings you over a course of time and not what it is in a moment. So because this is a process that really reaps benefits over and over and over again. And so your dedication to that and how you invest the dollars that you invest in your education come into big time play in terms of what we look for, in terms of how you kind of work with your financial aid package, how you work with even financial education when Keith talks later. All of these things start to kind of roll into place and overlap with one another. So it is not just one thing, it's several things that kind of roll in together, but they all roll back to an investment in yourself and into an investment in what you're going to do for the rest of your life. So it's really serious in that note. That investment starts with consideration of financial aid in general. The free application for federal student aid, or what's commonly known to as the FAFSA, is how you start this process. You should have, if you may have already gotten some information related to the FAFSA, that's awesome. If you haven't, it's an application that opens October 1st every year. So it opened just 26 days ago or earlier this month. I don't even know what day it is anymore. But it's open right now, and it opens in October for the next cycle. So this application that's open right now is for fall 21, spring 22 academic year. So if that is when you plan on starting, the FAFSA is there and is ready to be completed for you. We try to dispel myths or rumors about the FAFSA all the time. You will hear Keith, who's coming up later. He and I repeat each other on several different things. And we do that because these things are really critically important, and we're really trying to set that reminder for you about those things that become kind of annually important. So the FAFSA is one thing I ask students and families in every presentation I do is to get out your calendar right now, mark October 1st on that. That is not just an MSU date, that is a FAFSA date. That is a federal form date. That application opens again October 1st every year, and it's an annual piece. So you're going to want to do the FAFSA every year in advance of every year from what that looks like. Some of the myths or rumors around that are that I won't qualify for anything. I know I make too much money for that. That's all well and good. But this application considers you not only just for federal, state, and institutional financial aid that might be based on need, but scholarships over and over are beginning to look at this application more and more to determine or prioritize funds that scholarship gives. So you've got a two-leg piece here in terms of what that looks like, in terms of not just doing the FAFSA for financial aid, but to also do it for scholarship consideration. Because if a department comes down and a review committee comes down to looking at a scholarship and they're able to look at FAFSA results for two different students, they may rank one over the other versus one that doesn't have it, because it gives them, again, that additional information about you, about your situation and what's going on there. So it just helps twofold on that. The other piece that it does that I really try to get out there is that it prepares you. The FAFSA prepares you for making other decisions. So when we put an offer out there for you, you get to kind of accept or decline what's there. But having that offer out there means right now, middle of summer, getting prepared for August, things look good, don't have any considerations, don't have to accept loans, don't have to do anything with what those look like. But it might come November, might even become spring term, and you might be in a different situation financially. That award package is there. You can activate that at any time. So it helps reduce that time to react to an emergency or any other kind of financial situation that you might have that comes up. The FAFSA can take in application process several weeks to get processed from the time you complete it through the Department of Ed. By the time MSU gets to load that application, by the time we get to evaluate that application, that can be 2 to 4 weeks at best. So if that's on file and you run into an emergency in 1 week and that stuff's already there, that can be turned around in a matter of days and not weeks. So always trying to promote the idea of getting that out there, knowing what's available to you, knowing what you can accept, what you can't accept, what's free, what's gift, all those kind of things. And we're going to talk more about that as we get through that. But in looking at your financial aid, we look at several different costs. So we look at tuition and fees, we look at books and supplies, we look at personal expenses, and we look at room and board. Tuition and fees is what we always call a direct educational expense, because that is paid directly to the institution or to the school. Room and board is a direct expense if you are on campus in a residence hall. Room and board can be an indirect cost if you experience that cost by living off campus in an apartment or a house or something else with a bunch of friends or anything like that. Books and supplies, oddly enough, are going to be considered really an indirect cost because every student on that is a little bit different. Personal expenses, again, are average costs that we are allowed to include. So as parents who look at this and we build a cost, what's called a cost of attendance for you as a student. Caitlin, you can go to that next slide for me because it'll illustrate this a little better. We get to build for you a cost of attendance. And this is an estimated value from a year ago in terms of what that looks like. And that will change every year in terms of what that looks like. But students get charged tuition and fees as a direct expense, and that depends on the type of student that you are. You're either a resident student or you're a non-resident student, or you could be a WUI student, or you could be a Gallatin College student. Those all have different assessment rates for tuition. That gets built in based on the type of their student are. But then we give you an allowance for room and board. We give you an allowance for books and supplies. We give you an allowance for personal and transportation expenses. Those are averages on what students are expected to incur or incur. Those are and we point those out because those are indirect expenses. It doesn't mean they are direct to the institution. You may or may not spend that or incur those costs each time, but we're allowed to, based on federal rules, give you aid to help you manage those expenses. It's important to note that that personal expense piece, that transportation expense, is something that you're probably already incurring. You're already buying groceries. You're already going to buy food. You're already going to buy gas. You're already doing some of these things. Financial aid can help you kind of still incur some of those costs or absorb some of those costs in and when you're in classes and when you're in a period of enrollment. So just because you see them there does not mean there are costs that you're going to incur and that they're going to be exactly in those amounts. But as Keith talks later, as we get through that, he's here to help you budget in terms of what you can actually might expect and how you might be able to meet some of those costs in terms of what your actual costs are. Now, if your actual costs go above what we've averaged out for you, we need you to come see us and we can talk about what kind of goes into that and how we look at that. So those are parameters set by really federal regulation for us. Those are things that we build. And again, they're averages in most cases, but they give us basically a cap in terms of what we can do and how much aid you might be able to receive for an academic year. So know that, but you're going to see that on an award notification, and this should give you some idea about what that looks like. Next slide, Caitlin. So, are you eligible for aid, or what kind of aid are you eligible for? That becomes really the next question and the next guide in terms of what we look at. That free application for federal student aid drives this information. When you apply with the FAFSA, you do a couple different things. One, you give some personal demographic information about who you are, provide that into the application, and you also provide some income information so that it can do an assessment of your ability really to pay for, or how much can you afford to pay for on your own. Now, this process, agree or disagree, is really a uniform process across the nation in terms of what it is. I don't think as I complete that, if Keith completes that, if Caitlin completes that, we all have different outlook on what we think that ability to pay is. But this is a uniform measurement in terms of developing what is kind of called a measurement of what nationally that might look like in your ability to pay. So when you complete that FAFSA, that personal data goes through a bunch of databases at the Department of Education to determine your citizenship status, your selective service status, even has a question related to whether or not you've been convicted of receiving financial aid while convicted of a drug offense while receiving financial aid. So there are several different things and edits that go along with that that might kick out that said, hey, you need to talk to MSU about what's going on there. It also kicks out what's called an estimated family contribution, and it is estimated family contribution, but that is the trigger that determines whether or not you're eligible for a federal Pell Grant, and it also determines eligibility for the type of loans that you might qualify for. So a couple different lanes in terms of what it's for and what it might do with that. The quality control piece in terms of how you manage that, but that tells us kind of the things and guides us in terms of the eligibility that you're going to see on the award notification, which we'll talk about here in a couple minutes as well. Next slide again, Caitlin, please. So another instrument in the FAFSA process is a process called verification. So there is federal financial aid money comes from taxpayers. So in that taxpayer piece, there is a quality control piece in that determines whether or not accuracy has been provided on your application. So to do the taxpayer justice, they have a process called verification, in which MSU, even though the Department of Ed selects you, MSU has to complete a verification process for the Department of Education to determine that the information you provided on your application is accurate. Please, if you see and read your results of your free application for federal student aid, you're going to get some data that pops out right away for that. And if you see something on there that says you've been selected for verification, please don't panic. It doesn't mean you did anything wrong. There are just as many cases where we actually provide students or put students in a better eligibility situation because of the confusion on the FAFSA versus actually taking something away for something you might not understand. So it's there to help. It's there to actually guide us in terms of what we do. So we are not aware really of all the circumstances that put students into verification, but there are varying answers that just may not be consistent from one part of the application to another. And if it does that, the department just is basically saying, hey, check this out. We want to make sure that this is right. We want to go through that process. A way to reduce your chances for verification in the FAFSA is to actually do the IRS data retrieval. You're going to get to the income part of that application, and it's going to ask you if you want to put that information in separately, or if you would like to leave the FAFSA site for a few minutes, go out to the Internal Revenue Service site, grab that tax year data, and bring it back in. That's the best way to avoid getting into verification, because it's taking, if the department sees that you've just taken that IRS information and downloaded it into your app, they feel much more comfortable with any of the other edits that are going on there. So one, it reduces verification. Two, it's just really much more seamless way to see what's there. The caution I give you there is that when you complete that and when it comes back from the data retrieval piece, you won't be able to see the numbers. So data security says that that information from the IRS back to the Department of Education has to be masked. So you'll see that it's there. MSU will get to see it, and we can talk you through that uncomfortable piece later on down the road if you want to know that that's kind of right. But we have several steps to go through before we would get to that stage, but we will get to see it. We will know what it is. Don't panic again if you don't see it, but please, if you are eligible to use the IRS data retrieval, please do so, because it really helps the process smoothly kind of go along. Next slide. In verification, if you happen to get selected for that, we're going to spend a couple slides here just kind of looking at what you would need to do. So in that process, you're looking at our webpage. We have a couple forms for you to complete that process of what that is. If you use the data retrieval from the IRS, that checks off 2 boxes right away because we satisfy the requirement to collect tax forms. If you weren't eligible to use or didn't feel comfortable using the IRS data retrieval, we will need some tax information from you as well. Next slide, Caitlin. In that, so you have gone to the form section on our website. You will select that forms page, and it's going to bring you up into some verification forms. Right here, this is what you would see today if you went and looked at that. There are 2 active years of verification out there, 2019-20 and 2020-21s, but you're going to be looking for a section then that would be 2021, 2022 verification forms. It would say it's for fall 21 and spring 22 in terms of what that looks like. Then you're going to see those blue item pieces there on how to kind of continue that process and look at everything that's going on. So those 4 things are 4 common things that we need to complete verification for that year. I'm going to show you the pieces of what that looks like here and just a little bit more detail on a couple of these. So the household size and verification form is really the one that was second down on that list. And this is kind of what it looks like, or what it will look like for the next year. It just, as you kind of repeat some information you put on the FAFSA, but it's also saying that there was confusion probably in what that looked like. So we're asking you just to kind of confirm the data that goes along with that. It's telling us who's in your household right now, who, as a student, who your parents might be supporting for that period of time in that period of education. So you're going to list and fill that out in the box. And then the rest of that form talks about giving us the IRS or the income tax information, and you get to check boxes in terms of what you've done. You'll be able to check the box that says you've already used the retrieval, or you're going to be asked to kind of go out to an IRS website, pull down a transcript, provide that for us from the IRS as well. We are currently, and I don't want to say this in terms of what's going to happen in 21, 22, but we're currently in a position that we can actually take signed tax forms. But that is a result of the COVID-19 and with several challenges with the IRS providing transcripts. But the predominant way, I would expect by next fall for those allowances to kind of be rolled back, and we'd be in a position where you'd have to use the data retrieval or provide an IRS transcript in order to get that done. If the IRS is still challenged at that time, we will also be able then to kind of take a signed tax return and be able to use that for part of that verification. Next one, Caitlin. So this tells you with some additional information how to go to the IRS and get those tax transcripts if those are needed. So next one, Caitlin. So you would click on that button. It's going to pull up a form for you on how to actually go to the IRS. So again, this takes you out of the MSU domain, and you have to go to the Internal Revenue site, and you have to look for get a transcript online. Now, there's a couple different ways to do that. Mail, I discourage. You don't want to do that if you can get this online. It's much, much quicker in terms of what's there and goes along. Now, there's a form to complete, get it by mail, but if I think we all kind of know or expect in a lot of cases for us to get mail from the Internal Revenue Service could take days, if not weeks, and so it will just delay the process that's going there. The telephone option is still published, but it's really infrequent that you can get a hold of somebody to kind of do that with the reduced time that they've got out there. So we publish this instruction form for you. It's there, but really what it is even if you go to the IRS site and see how to do that, you're going to get that information that kind of tells you how to walk through that right here. Next one, Caitlin. And this is really an image more of the IRS site in terms of what you would look. So as you go to that site, you're going to see that it gives you two of those blue boxes down at the bottom on how to actually obtain that tax transcript. It's not difficult. You can do a couple things there, but it is a process you have to go through. And it is a process that can take a little bit of time. So you may be able to do that household form in one day, and it might take a few days to actually get this data. But you have the ability to fax that information to us. You have the ability to drop those forms in a download from our website, or you can drop them off physically if you happen to be in town or anything that's here. So you can deliver those to us in a number of different ways. But again, that's kind of that verification process in terms of that we're looking at there. Next one, Caitlin. So we get that done. So you may have been selected for verification. You may not have been selected for verification. Either way, our goal here is to get you what we call an award notification or an award letter. Caitlin, if you can grab the next slide, please. So in that award letter, what we've done then is look at that FAFSA data. We've been able to determine that, yes, everything looks good. We are in a good place. And then we funnel you into an award process. And that's when things start to kind of come together in total in terms of what they look like. So we award you grants first. We award you work study if you're eligible, and we award you loans last. Scholarships, if they're already there, are taken into account in the award package. So if you've been able to get a Premier or an Achievement Award and have already accepted that award, that should show up in your award package as well, if you've accepted it. If you haven't done that step yet, might be there. There's also going to be communication on our webpage for you to tell us about any of those outside scholarships. So as Caitlin referred to, if you have that Tall Man Scholarship, there's a place for you to tell us about that on our webpage, and we will load that into the award package so that we get you into that cost of attendance threshold and make sure that everything is packaged correctly. But grants are free aid, scholarships are free aid, don't have to pay those back. If you see those are things you want to grab right away. Work study provides you an option to work mostly on campus with a few off-campus opportunities in community service. But it allows you to meet some of those personal expenses that we talked about early in that COA. So if you're looking to work study is a great way to get connected on campus. Financial aid, as an example, hires several students over the course of the year to come in and do work for us in our office, right? They answer phones, they process documents, they do imaging stuff for us in document management. They do all kinds of different things for us. So we hire students. Other departments across campus hire students. Food services, residence life hire students all the time. So if you see work study on there, please really consider what that looks like. The Ellen Yarnell Center for Student Success has a job board. Positions on campus are posted there. You can screen what those look like and funnel into something that looks like. But it helps you meet that monthly obligation, maybe of some of your bills, by getting that paycheck every couple weeks in terms of what that looks like. So work study is a great way because that benefits my office if I have you on work study. Work study gets to pay 75% of your wage. I have to pay 25% of your wage. So work study is of value to me because I can hire 3 students where I might be able to only hire 1 otherwise. But work study is not the only mechanism that allows you to work on campus. So I know that's a question that comes up all the time. There are what you would call just hourly or regular pay jobs across campus everywhere. So you can work on campus, you can work off campus, and still work without having work study. Work study is just a benefit really to you because it engages you on campus someplace, but 2, it's a big piece because as an institution, we get to employ and be able to get to use our money in a much wider capacity. So it's good for us to be able to do that. The award letter is really that piece that we're looking for. That is the one thing that you're actually waiting to get is information from us in a communication that says, hey, your award letter is available in my info. So just like you went in and looked at those scholarships, you're going to go in and look at your award package to see exactly what's there. You get an email communication from us, and that gets you kind of what's there. We're going to skip that one because I know Keith is going to talk about that one, and we're going to go next. So talked over myself there. You've been awarded. We'll go from there. And Keith, I'm going to let you talk about the prom note and the entrance counseling because you have that. So go ahead and go to the next one, Caitlin. So dates. We've already talked about some dates. We have new dates with those scholarship opportunities coming that Caitlin's already referred to for that supplemental application for Achievement and Premier and for WUI. So that's a date to be sensitive of on your calendar. October 1st. This is what I talked about earlier. Get that on your calendar right now. That's just got to be a reminder bell that comes up that says, hey, FAFSA is now open. I can do that for the next year. Honestly, I promote the idea really. It says get it done and get it done early. And that way it's not getting you over the summer. It's not getting you over spring. It seems odd in nature that you're actually doing that application in October when you've been on campus, started your semester in August, and here we are bugging you to do application for the next year already in October. But if you can get into that cycle over the 4 years, it's going to be a great advantage to you in terms of what that looks like. Programs related to financial aid like work study and a supplemental education opportunity grant from the Department of Education are limited in nature. We call them campus-based because they just have a pool of funds available to them. As such, we have a preferred filing date in order to be eligible for those chances, and that preferred filing date is December 1st. December 1st doesn't guarantee eligibility for those, but it puts you in the pool to be considered for those as of December 1st. We can run out before then, but December 1st is our priority consideration, meaning that if funds became available later in the spring or even late in the fall, we go back to the priority list and try to funnel or find students who would have been eligible that maybe didn't get to take advantage of that. Caitlin talked just a little bit about institutional or departmental scholarships. So CATS scholarships is the portal that we have for that piece, and that will open up November 1st of every year. So that's opening up in just a few days. It is generally for continuing students, but you are still encouraged as a freshman to apply for that in terms of what that looks like. Many departmental awards seek to evaluate your on-campus engagement. So that's why it's more popular for seniors, juniors, and sophomores as you go through that because you've been able to demonstrate some MSU activity. But there are some that are out there also for freshmen. So doing the CAT scholarship application puts you into a pool, again, that applies you for about 90% of the MSU funds. Some departments have other processes and specific measures to go through with that. But again, that will be as an upperclassman in terms of what you look like and how you've created a relationship with your department, whether that's business or engineering or agriculture, whatever that might be, that will be a beast there. But November 1st is another date to calendar because it's the date that MSU one application gets you into most things that MSU has to offer. You don't have to go around from place to place, department to department, and fill out an application. So this streamlines your application process into 90% of the MSU institutional scholarship opportunities. That also has a February 1st preferred filing date. And again, that is just so that review committees and everything can get their work done and get those awards out and onto your application as we kind of move forward in what that looks like. That will wrap up my piece in terms of what's there. But again, there's contact information coming up that Keith will hit at the very end again as well that tells how to reach us. And we're available here to help you in any way that we can. So we encourage your emails, we encourage your calls, we encourage your visits if you're here on campus for us to be able to talk through anything that we've talked about and much more, because I rushed in even getting through some of those data elements that are already there. Keith, over to you.
Thank you very much, James. Appreciate you guys having me come in and talk. Appreciate everyone out there in virtual land. Watching the questions go by, amazing questions, and staff doing an amazing job of answering them. So my name's Keith Hamburg. I'm a senior financial coach, not in the Office of Financial Aid, but the Office of Financial Education. Caitlin, if you can hit that next slide, please. So this is our office. We're in the basement of the sub, and we are part of the Ellen Yarnell Center for Student Success, career coaching, tutoring, our engagement program called Champ Change. That's all done through our office. But my Office of Financial Education is in the basement of the sub right next to the bowling alley. And Caitlin, if you could head to the next slide. So what do I do that is different than from what financial aid does? We cross over. We work with students more on a one-on-one basis when it comes to your situation. You're in state, you're out of state, your WUI, your achievement award. You get Pell Grant, you don't get Pell Grant. So the mission of the office is to serve the Montana State community by providing financial education to students and graduates, just to gain financial independence and help them achieve their life goals. As you can see by the logos up here, these are the things we do: one-on-one financial coaching, classroom presentation. There's a online, when you become a freshman at MSU, there's a few things you have to do online. One of them is called the Transit Financial Wellness Course. We talk to parents all the time, either about Parent Plus loans. We also talk to them about, paying for school, 529 plans, and things like that. Jumping kind of ahead, as you get closer to graduation, we'll talk to you about loan repayment, and that includes public service loan forgiveness. Might you qualify to have your student loans forgiven? We'll talk to you about that. And then probably the most popular clinic that my office does is Scholarships 101. And Caitlin and James have touched on it, but I met with a student about 3 hours ago, an incoming freshman this fall, who did CATS scholarship when she was a senior at Bozeman High School, and she got a $275 scholarship through CATS scholarship. So James is correct. Most of them are for continuing students, but my opinion is it opens up this Sunday. You have to have it in before February 1st. Just gives you a chance to start it once. You'll do it at least 3 more times. And that's a big one that we work on with students. Salary negotiations, as you get closer to graduating, we'll talk to you about that. And you'll get our contact information here coming up at the end. So Caitlin, if you don't mind hitting the next one. So the Office of Financial Education, as I've kind of already said, our goal is to start with you as a freshman and finish with you when you're graduating. So as James mentioned earlier, it might be applying for FAFSA, it might be applying for scholarships, but it also might be, I've decided to move off campus my second year, and I now need to budget because I have a rent payment and part of an internet bill and part of an electric bill. So our services to clients change. as they go through their college experience. But as I've said, a number of clinics, events, classroom programs throughout the year. And now, fortunately, this fall, we have a team of 5 student financial peer mentors. So we have someone who's a college student just like you, who can help you through, what can be, a process of going through either FAFSA verification. But just like James's office, we're here to help you with that. Next, please. So James mentioned this, and a little premature unless you're coming in the spring of 21. But once you apply for FAFSA, and I saw the questions in the chat, and you're awarded a financial aid package, if you decide to accept your financial aid. So James's team will get in touch with you January, February, somewhere in there, March maybe, in terms of your award for 21-22. But one of the big things that we push through orientation and even now is know that once you've completed the FAFSA, once you've accepted your award, there's 2 more steps that you have to do. One is called entrance counseling, and the other one is called signing your master promissory note. The Office of Financial Education, we're a university, so we give ourselves an acronym. OFE offers clinics and appointments to help you with this process. But as we talk to students virtually or maybe in person sometime soon at orientation, we'll say, do your entrance counseling, do your master promissory note. That way your aid will pay when you expect it to pay. So that's what James is referring to in terms of some next steps after applying and accepting your FAFSA. Next slide, please, Caitlin. So FAFSA Part 2, and I think this is probably the 3rd or 4th time we've told you this. They already gave you the website, but there's a picture of it on the left called CAT Scholarships, and there's also a picture of what your financial aid might look like in your My Info. So as we talked about, where do you go to apply for scholarships? Sure, there's a tall person scholarship, a redheaded person scholarship, a prom dress made out of duct tape scholarship. There's all kinds of outside scholarships. But honestly, in terms of incoming students and continuing students, CAT Scholarship is absolutely the #1 place that I go and send people. And as James already mentioned, it's a great general application. Some colleges will have a supplemental application. So you're not only applying for your college, but Montana State University as a whole. So, number 2 on this talks about that we can accurately build a plan for paying for school into your budget. And then it just gives you some advice on after you've done entrance counseling and master promissory note, you can accept your aid, confirm your bill. I know that's a little bit of a ways out as we're talking on October 28th, but both my office, financial aid, and of course our student accounts office, happy to walk you through that. Next, please, Ms. Kate. So this was also mentioned at the beginning of the program. So for in-state students only, we have a program called the MSU Hillman Scholars Program. Caitlin mentioned it earlier. You do have to apply for FAFSA. There will be an application process for this, usually opens up in about February-ish. And a number of students will actually be invited by our president to apply. Again, out-of-state students, sorry. Here's a picture of a number of our Hillman scholars, and this is just giving you a little bit more information on what the program does. So, year 1, it's about academic and personal and career exploration. Experimental learning. Hillman scholars do an internship their sophomore year. Their 3rd year, student engagement, giving back to the university. The 4th year, civic engagement, giving back to the state and the community they came from. So Montana residents who graduated from high school in 2021 and who are eligible for Pell Grant are invited to apply by letter from MSU. If you don't get that letter, does it mean you can't apply? No, it doesn't. So there's, I think Caitlin showed you the website, but montana.edu/Hillman Scholars. There's our phone number if any parent or student wants to talk to our program manager, Nikki, about that. So great program, great for in-state students. And as Caitlin mentioned, it comes with at least $4,000 per year in scholarship. It also comes with a study abroad and some other things that you do not have to pay for. So just a little more information on that. And then I think next might just be, my contact information for my office. I will, if there are parents listening or students, if your parents are close by, just know that we'll meet with both the student and the parents to talk about anything from FAFSA to paying for school to how to get 529 funds to help pay for your child's education. So there's my email address. There's my direct extension. So take out your phones, take a picture. My coworker, Jennifer White Dobbs, is our program manager. She's also a financial coach. And then we have a team of what we call catalysts, peer mentors, and there is their phone number. So the last slide, I believe, should be contact information for all of us. Is that correct, Caitlin? It's the contact information for James's office and the contact information, the general contact information for the Office of Financial Education. Make change comes to my email. So whether you email me personally or there, I'll be the one answering it for you. So I think that's it from my standpoint. Did I miss anything, James?
No, Keith, I think you did a great job. Thank you. I think just note on the scholarships, you can't win if you don't play kind of thing. They're hard to get. Nobody will say that they're not, but if you don't put yourself in there, you can be considered. So
James, if I could add one thing to that, because I wish 34 years ago when I started college, there was such an application like you created in CATS scholarship. And not that academics are not important, because of course they are, but I have filled out about 300 or 400 CATS scholarships with my clients. It isn't about your high school GPA anymore. It might be now, but it isn't about your test scores. It is about where have you worked? Where have you volunteered? What does your essay say in answering those questions? So it's a great application. My opinion, as James said, is you can't win the lottery unless you buy a ticket. You can't get a scholarship unless you apply. Now, I'm kind of a little bit of a pushy guy. That February 1st priority deadline, when I meet with students, it's the deadline. Just get it in before February 1st.
Awesome. That was fantastic information. A huge thank you to you, James and Keith, for joining us this evening. And to all of you who tuned in, thank you. So we do have about 10 minutes left for some live Q&A. So I'm going to refer to the document and ask you guys some more questions.
Excellent.
Sounds good.
So it looks like the first one we have in is, can I still fill out FAFSA for spring 2021 for an incoming sophomore student that is transferring?
Absolutely. And you're encouraged to do so. It's the 2021 FAFSA. You go to the same place, FAFSA, fafsa.ed.gov. It'll give you the option to apply for either one of those FAFSAs.
Awesome. And then another big question that we've been getting in quite a lot this evening is, when is the WUI application going to be open? And I can go ahead and answer this one, that application is going to be open no later than November 16th. So just to reiterate that date, WUI application will be open no later than November 16th. And just for some more clarification, there will be one application, the Blue and Gold Scholarship application, that you need to apply for to be eligible for both WUI and for the Supplemental Achievement Award. So one application for both of those opportunities. Anything to add on that, James or Keith?
No, you hit it. That's it.
Perfect.
Caitlin, and I should probably know this, but so the Achievement Award doesn't have an application. It's just based on your test, well, not test scores, but your GPA.
That's correct, Keith.
Okay.
The Achievement Award, automatic consideration when you apply to MSU based on GPA. And
Great.
the Achievement Award notices will be out within the next few weeks as well.
Great.
Perfect. Well, continuing forward with more questions, we had one that said, COVID has impacted my family's income significantly. How can I communicate this change to colleges, even though it won't end up on my 2019 tax return?
Awesome question. One we get frequently. So the FAFSA needs to be completed with the base year information that's already there. So please complete the FAFSA based on what it's asking for. Get those results. We'll get them here. And then what we need you to do is contact us. Once we have everything in play and we've been able to receive that FAFSA and been able to take a look at it, we need to have an intake or a triage kind of conversation with you to evaluate what we can do, how we might be able to do that, and take those reduced incomes from COVID into consideration. So we can update that, but that becomes a campus or an institutional process. So one, complete the FAFSA just like it's asking. Two, once that's all done and you know that we've got it, which won't be till sometime in December, even though it's completable in October, we won't start loading those records until December. Then we want to talk to you further, but we need to do that after we have the results.
Awesome. And then the next question is, what scholarships can be stacked and what scholarships cannot be stacked? I can go ahead and take this one. When we're looking at our out-of-state scholarships, you are not able to stack the Achievement Award and the WUI scholarship. Unfortunately, those cannot be stacked on top of each other, but we will always give you the award of highest value. And so historically, that's generally been WUI, but you will always get the highest award value with those two. Anything else to add?
CATS scholarship.
Yeah. It's true for most anything that is MSU based. If you receive something that's applied to tuition, like the achievement or the honors or even the presidential, you can only pay tuition once. So you get the best value of the awards that you get for that, the one that is the best paying in that sense. You can stack, certainly institutional scholarships on top of outside scholarships. So depending on what they are, but you can also get, a scholarship organization that might actually be narrow enough or that be specific enough to say, I'm only paying tuition. So it might help pay part of tuition, but it may also, if it's paying all of it, it might take away something else that's there. So those are challenging decisions. It is, I hate to say it, but it's kind of case by case because it really depends on what else you already have in play.
Caitlin, the only thing I would add to that is whether you're from small town America or a larger city, that if you receive a WUI scholarship, but your local Lions Club gives you a scholarship, it won't reduce your WUI. You're going to get the Lions Club scholarship. So especially for seniors in high school, do not pass over the civic organizations in the town you are at. Because often that could be your books for your freshman year. So certainly, while we, highly recommend the CATS scholarship, don't be afraid to look in your community. I sit on a number of nonprofit boards, and you would be amazed how many people don't apply for scholarships. So don't just think that they'll have 10,000 applications. They might have 2. So that's my only other piece of advice on other scholarships.
That's some great points. And again, I want to, there was a few questions in the chat just asking, beyond just when WUI is going to be open, just kind of, how will we know that? Just know as soon as we push out any applications, opportunities, everyone will be the first to know through emails, texts. We'll be sure to blast out that information, and you can always find the most updated scholarship info on our website at montana.edu/scholarships. So looking at the next question then, when will we know about financial aid awards?
So the typical cycle is that we'll start loading those records in December, late November, early December. That's when we start our cycle in terms of looking at that. We start going through our process of setup and everything like that. And our goal is to get awards out by middle of February. So if you don't have anything by middle of February, 1st of March, then we need you to kind of check in with us and see what the status is. But we communicate with you primarily through email. So if we have an outstanding document that you need to give us that you need to clear, check your email, please, for what that looks like. Because that's generally the most common thing is like, I've been waiting and waiting. And it's like, we've sent you 3 or 4 notifications asking for this documentation. We haven't received it. Oh, okay, I'll get it in and get that done. So but not until, so we'll begin loading records. So that means in December, January, you start getting notifications from us about what you might need. And then mid-February to March in terms of actually getting an award letter.
Great. And then the next question is, what percentage of students pay full out-of-state tuition?
I honestly can say I don't have an answer to that. I mean, that's a budget and analysis question, but I don't know that.
Great. I do know that typically, from what I've been told, over 70% of our students have some sort of aid, whether that's scholarships or they use financial aid. So that's kind of like the number that we have right now for you. But if you do have those more specific questions, please feel free to reach out to us through email. And then, are scholarships and FAFSA awards binding?
You get the opportunity through the FAFSA on that award letter to actually accept or decline the offer. If we accept a grant on your behalf, but for loans, work study, you have to take a proactive action to actually do that. So scholarships pretty much the same way. They're mostly accepted on your behalf. If you get an award through CATS scholarships, again, you get a notification from there. There is 99% likelihood that you have to do a thank you letter. That thank you letter has to be submitted and then processed in order for that scholarship to kind of go. And then eligibility things come into play again. So we have a whole information page on our webpage. It's called an information guide that talks to you about how to do that. Aid is awarded on a full-time anticipated basis. So to meet those enrollment obligations, that's when aid disperses, is when you meet a lot of those eligibility requirements. So it's binding in the sense that when you offer it, it's there. It's if you meet the other eligibility criteria based on enrollment and other things at the time of disbursement, that changes from term to term and with other things that might be going on. So what we didn't touch on is through the federal piece, we have a requirement called satisfactory academic progress. So from term to term, we measure your academic progress, and that may or may also mark you for continued eligibility with financial aid.
Great. And I do just want to mention, when it comes to the scholarships, the merit scholarships more specifically, such as the Premier, the WUI, the Achievement, those are all non-binding. That means you can accept those awards, and that is not committing you to coming to Montana State University. And it looks like we have time for just one or two more questions. So the next one is, does work study apply only towards tuition costs?
Oh, great question.
No, work study is actually paid to you as part of payroll. So it goes into your pocket and it helps you with almost everything else. But indirectly, if you were on a tuition payment plan, you would have to take that actually work study or that payroll and actually turn back around and pay MSU those funds.
Right.
Great. And then the next question is, what if your GPA is not quite high enough for the WUI once those parameters are out, but you expect it to be higher at the end of senior year? How would this affect your award for scholarships? So when it comes to this, we accept updated academic information throughout one's entire senior year. So that means if you applied right now and your GPA goes up at semester, trimester, whatever you're on, let us know. Reach out to the Office of Admissions and we can send you an update GPA form where you're able to update your GPA, and that could qualify you for a different award amount. So it's important to continue updating us with that information throughout the academic year.
Yeah, but there are cutoffs. Yeah, Caitlin, please, remind people that there are cutoffs for the number or the amount of awards that go out. So
absolutely.
Get that information to admissions as quickly as possible. Yeah.
Yes, that is a very good point. And then the last question that we're going to do this evening is, do you need to apply for WUI every year?
No, once you get a WUI assessment, and as long as you maintain those academic requirements to keep it, so like the Achievement and the WUI and certain Premier Awards require 30 credits academically per year plus a 3.0 GPA for renewal. So your academic performance would be the trigger for being able to keep it or not.
Fantastic. Well, everyone, that is all we have time for this evening. Again, thank you to James and Keith for all of your helpful information this evening. And please feel free to reach out with questions to either the Office of Admissions, Financial Aid, or Financial Education. We are here to help you. We realize that there's a lot going on currently, and just know that we have your back. So do not hesitate to reach out. Again, thank you for joining us this evening for Webinar Wednesday. And next Thursday, we'll actually be having another webinar going over the next steps to becoming a Bobcat, looking at the admissions checklist. So feel free to join us next week. But again, thank you, and I hope you have a good rest of your night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.